Light and peace, brothers and sisters. Topic of discussion today is unpublished books in Oahspe. Lately, around June, the Oahspe went out of stock. What that means is a lot of people are waking up. They are beginning to get themselves Oahspe on eBay, Amazon, but the popular website where majority of people has been purchasing Oahspe uh, went out of stock. So with that being said, something dawned me that as readers are beginning to read the Oahspe, they're beginning to understand the Oahspe, what the Oahspe talks about. Questions will start coming up. So as a spiritual teacher, I decided to come up with this topic of discussion today because as young ones and youths and kids are beginning to read this, they will begin to question their daddy and their mommy, or even they'll even begin to question, adults that, why was this way? So this topic of discussion is just to talk about unpublished books in the OAPC. Um, I don't know what happened to John Nubo, but I'm just gonna show what I see in the OAPC, and you decide. And then after this video, I'll talk about the summary of what OAPC teaches uh, after this video. So let's get started. Many collections in the OAPC has been published over time. As you can see in the years, we've had a lot of OAPC versions published. As you can see, you got different multiple colors, versions. Uh, but with that said, um, most of them have the same contents, precisely. Some had some edition changes, based on authors. But we don't know exactly what was changed, but from my research, I can clearly see that, a couple of stuff was altered in the OAPC. The first one that was very glaring is in the tablet of Bangaha. You clearly see where it says, see also Book of Japhet. Now, which triggered some few people saying that if there was a Book of Japhet, then based on this, clearly it's safe to say that there should be a Book of Arabinia, a Book of Vinju, and a Book of Gautama. Now, some might argue why, but if you clearly read the website carefully, they talk about Arabinia a lot, Vinju, and Gautama. So if there was a Book of Japhet, then clearly there must be a book of Arabinia, Vinju, and Gautama. Now, the 2007 version of Oahspe that was published by the Seventh Era says the origin, see also Book of Japhet was an original book of Oahspe pulled from being in the published Oahspe, but the 1882 editor neglected to remove the reference. The Book of Japhet so far as it's known, is no longer in corporeal existence. In other words, someone pulled it out and we don't know where it is. People have tried to locate it. Nobody knows, but it actually did exist, right? So, I mean, this is just for you to think about. My opinion, my conclusion, if there was a Book of Japhet, there must have been a Book of Arabinia, a Book of Vinju, and also a Book of Gautama. Now, some editions started to show books in Oahspe where the original publication of Oahspe did not have the book of knowledge in there. They had no book of discipline, and the book of Orantonan was not there. Now, later on, they published editions where the book of knowledge and book of discipline and book of Orantonan showed up in the Oahspe, which clearly tells you that in the original edition that was published in the 1882, it was taken out, and they decided to publish it in 1891. You see that? So now, further research shows that some of these books are also missing, which is the book of the prophets. I have read about 2-3 chapters of that. I don't know if it's the complete one, but I did acquire it from Ofeti's brother by the name of Robert, who also is on YouTube, as a matter of fact. And he gave me a copy of it to read. And I can tell you for sure, if John Newbrough or the publishing company had published the book of the prophets, there might have been some type of war. A war would have come on, because it talks about the slavery masters and it talks about slavery. And I'm sure, I am positive, that's one of the reasons the book of the prophets was not published. Now, also, there was a book of Zimas, which some people probably, I'm sure some people read a couple of fragments of it. And then the final one was the book of Gratius. I don't know why that wasn't published, but I'm sure some people looked at it and it's like it had some conflicting interest in there, because I also read a couple of the pages also. So I've read the book of Gratius, the book of Zima, and the book of the prophets. I don't know if they were complete, but it looks like they were fragments. But whatever it is, the book of Gratius kind of educates us that it is okay for you to eat meat. But they give you different categories. So there was the meat eaters who could eat vegetables, and then you got the people who could they don't eat meat, but they drink milk and they eat egg. So those categories of people in the Shalom colony, you can understand why some faiths will not want to publish such book. But again, that decision, I don't know who made that decision, who decided not to publish it. It could have been John Newburn, who was the original publisher, or it could be the publishing book, but I'll let you guys decide. But food for thoughts. Some of you might say, what other evidence do you actually have something was taken out? But if you go to the book of Akaban, chapter 15, verse 28 says, the voice said, I am the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and Jacob. Moses said, what may I do for you? Now, we do not have the full story of Isaac and Jacob, which clearly tells you, if the story of Abraham existed in Oahspe, then there must have been the story of Isaac and Jacob, which did not exist also in Oahspe. So this is just food for thought. Now, then again, you might say, oh, but what other proof do you have? Book of Exodus, chapter 50, verse 12. These countries were given by God to our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then down to Moses, and then down to us. So Isaac and Jacob was mentioned in the Oahspe. We did not have the full story or the stories about Jacob and Isaac. I have a feeling, it is my conclusion that that story was taken out because it might create some contradiction, or I don't know. If you read the Christian Bible, it talks about the Isaac and Jacob story, and in there was some type of one of them marrying 2 women or marrying a sister. You know what I mean? So, but this is just food for thought for you. I'm sure this was taken out, but my job or my responsibility is to bring the information out and you decide. Now, the question is, was it the angels who said the books are enormous, so take some out? Was it the brotherhood that John Newburn belonged to? Because he was in a brotherhood. Or was it John Newburn himself? Or was it the publishing company that decided, due to cost, we're going to reduce these books? You decide. My job as a teacher is to present the information, and it's up to you to decide if it was true or not. But I do know for a fact, clearly, I have read the book of the prophets, the book of Zemas, and the book of Gratius. Apparently, there were fragments that I collected from a brother called Robert using YouTube, and I was amazed. And the book of Japhet clearly was in the book under the book of Sapphire, where it says the tablet of Bangahat, and it clearly says see also book of Japhet. So if there was a book of Japhet, there must have been the book of Arabia, which happens to be Africa, the book of Vinju, which happens to be India, and the book of Gautama, which happens to be North America. There's this unpublished books and unexplanation, and some parts in Oahspe also says clearly withheld from publication. So that tells you clearly that it was altered. You decide. Again, this book of Akaban, chapter 15, verse 28, talks about God of Abraham and God of Isaac and Jacob. But we do have the story of Abraham. We also have the story of Moses. We do not have full story of Isaac and Jacob. Light and peace, brothers and sisters. The next topic after this will be the summary of what Oahspe teaches. Bye-bye now.